Of course I'm drunk.
The ocean becomes a drop. She is a solid.
Sorry and brandy for the brass.
The drop becomes the ocean.
Oh, yes. Star Trek DS9, Season 6, Episode 4, Behind the Lines. It's aired actually 25 years ago on October 20th, 1997. But here on this November 1st, 2022, we're just getting started on a review here on Live Long and Podcast as we continue our ongoing journey to watch every episode of Star Trek DS9, look back, review, and rate it. I'm Dave Mader, and I'm joined with Jaemeel Robinson tonight to talk about this episode, written by Rene Echeverria and directed by one LeVar Burton back in October, 25 years ago, plus maybe a couple days, a week or so. Jaemeel, how are you doing tonight? And you excited to talk about Behind the Lines?
Yes, I'm doing all right. How are you doing today?
Well, I'm okay. I'm doing all right, I think.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, like no complaints, really. Like, we're it's just you and I tonight. Normally we have other podcasters with us, so it's going to be a little
Who
bit
needs
different.
them?
Who needs
them?
When they got you and I, it's too much. There's too much going on. Like the two founders of Live Long and Podcast, really. This is original recipe Live Long and Podcast, yes. You might say.
This is the great link.
This is the great link. The link's about exchanging thought and form and idea or something like that, right?
The link, it's about merging thought and form, idea and sensation.
That sounds like a perfect way to manipulate someone.
Yeah. Well, might be. And we hope, if so, we're hoping to manipulate you into liking and subscribing to this podcast. If you haven't already, you might be watching us on Facebook, YouTube, or on Twitch. On the live version here, you might be listening to us in the audio version after the fact, or maybe who knows, maybe 25 years from now, you might be reviewing this podcast of an episode of DS9 that's 25 years before this. We have live chatters here, including Sam Higdon, of course, fan number one. Where is everyone else tonight? Well, everyone had other commitments. But you don't, as we were saying, we have Jeremy Caulfield with us also in the chat.
You're not gonna post the other message.
I think we're getting off topic here. So
I see your message, Sam. I see you. We'll talk about it tomorrow, okay?
Yeah, tomorrow's Survivor Night on Super Mader Brothers podcast day. Make sure to check that out. But like Behind the Lines, continuing this Dominion War arc back in Star Trek DS9. We start up here at the Starbase in the episode. What Starbase was this again? I always forget.
I'm
Starbase 375. 375, guys. And so I think it starts off here with a captain's log, if memory is serving here. The Defiant and her crew are now operating at the Starbase. You got the Saurian Brandy going here, Jaemeel.
Yep.
Nog can still get it in the war. He's still Ferengi. It's a busy starbase on 375. So it's almost like, they don't have Deep Space Nine, the station itself, but they are like not just living on the Defiant exclusively. At least they have at least the base that they kind of come on and off.
But isn't this right here the Defiant itself?
Yeah, so right now they're on the Defiant for sure. They're just getting back from a mission that involved fighting, or assumedly. Conducting short-range missions into Denduian space. So they go in, they fight, and they come back. It's kind of their missions. O'Brien here shows up with the power cell, the phaser, and we get our first of these couple of speeches here. Where is it here?
Excuse me, Captain. The power cell from the phaser array. We used it up in the last mission.
Take a good look at this, people. It says something about this ship. It says that we will fight. And we will keep on fighting until we can't fight anymore.
Oh.
Yes, sir! You don't just throw something like this away.
No, sir!
It would have been
My favorite is that he claps, he also claps.
Admiral, I'm dead.
You don't feel he should clap? to his own speech?
Because he's giving the speech, and at the end, he's like, "Yeah," and I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know if it was the right look for the scene. I think it would have been better if he was like boss, like with his arms on his hips or something.
That's your clapping.
I don't know. I think so. I think that's what it. I like that everyone else claps, but it's all good.
I don't like. I personally don't like when people clap when the people that we're clapping for is not present, because it's like, who you clapping for? Like, if you're at a movie and the movie ends and people start clapping, I'm like, is a member of the original crew here? Did someone who wrote it, their family friend? It's like they're not seeing the clapping, right? It's more self-indulgent, and I feel like exactly what you're talking about is a little self-indulgent.
Okay, what do you think of the speech overall? Like, do you like it? Do you think
it's? I thought they could have made up a better speech. It's a little. To me, I'd be like, that's it. That's the speech.
We're gonna fight until we can't fight anymore.
Okay, it's like, isn't that the plan? Like,
yeah.
What now? When
These are almost like war trophies.
When I see that, I'm like, it would have been an awesome callback if like they're on the Defiant and they've ran out of like photon torpedoes, right? And they're like, put in those arrays and shoot them off because we need to do something. It would have been nice to see that come back. Like, they literally used everything they could to win.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, they're trying to like have this romanticized kind of version of war, right? A little bit like war is, you have to have like morale and you have to be wanting to fight, and you want to war the opponent until they want to sue for peace. Is kind of like the idea. Yeah. And it's, so there's also a little bit of that. You have to, like, because it's a slog. It's like a marathon. You have to have sort of something like almost like a song if you're running a marathon, if to use that analogy.
Yeah,
as well.
I absolutely dig that. Now, what happens if like the war rages on for 2 years and it's just like a corner filled with those, and they're like, oh geez, they're tripping over them.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that would be interesting for them to. The Dominion War does last about 2 years or so.
Yeah.
So
but at this point, it isn't like
this
is
early.
Sometime in, right?
Yeah, they're about, I don't know, maybe 5 months into this or so.
Yeah.
Maybe
but
less.
This era, in terms of them dealing with the situation, it doesn't last for the full 2 years.
Not quite.
Yeah.
No, not with them living out of Starbase 375. Also, Jaemeel, in this episode, we see, Admiral William Ross. I think we've seen him before. He was a couple episodes ago. He made his debut. He's he's wearing a new uniform, an admiral's version of this gray top uniform. This is, I believe, the first time we ever see this. The belt he has, which we'll see in some other shots, is not the final admiral's belt. They'll come to have like another Starfleet insignia sort of in that belt. But for now, they're like, well, we're going to put some gold trim on it, and we're also going to give a belt, as well as like, having the rank epaulets on both sides of the collar, admiral style. Do you like it?
It's okay. Having worked for a huge organization, I could absolutely understand why you'll see incremental updates. You're like, really, you changed it slightly, and it was just a couple of months between the last revision. But hey, they have it in their mind to change it, and they change it. I'm not a big fan of the belt. It just looks. I'm just so used to not seeing belts in Star Trek.
I like belts in Star Trek, but you're right; they're not necessarily the common thing or the default. Usually, it's not a belt, or
especially
at least
a buckle that big.
It's a big buckle. I agree. Going across the chest. It's meant to. You're not really meant to take the jacket off too much. Versus like the line officers who look a little bit more like they're kind of functional. In that sense, admiral's uniform is always meant to look more ornate, I guess, and more like you're supposed to be a big deal when you're an admiral because you command fleet multiple ships at once, right? But it's also most of the time the admirals are presented as very stuffy and like desk guys and not with it. like traditional Starfleet line officer types or enlisted guys would be, right? So there's even when you had Admiral Kirk back in like the Wrath of Khan or whatever else, he was like, well, he's a little bit past his prime. He's not, he's more of a desk job guy now. He's gone soft, and presumably Admiral Ross here, who again very prominent in this episode, we see that he's coordinating a good degree of the war effort, at least where they are in the region of space that they're located in. That he's probably was a captain at one point and probably did have all kinds of adventures himself, presumably, or he was at least competent before that, and now here he is commanding a lot of people. He doesn't seem that much older than like Cisco or anybody, right? So it's
well, to be fair, Cisco also had like a career setback as well. So
right, because of the losing his wife.
Well, yeah, and more or less being shunted off to Deep Space Nine for a period of time.
Right,
now,
that wasn't a good assignment at first, but yeah. Anyway, so he's like, "Hey, I want you to go and blow up this thing, Cisco. Like, blow up this. They have some kind of like spy satellite on this other side of this Argolis cluster. Check it out. Let me know." And Cisco's like, "Okay, man." Like, he's like, it's almost like Cisco has a boss now, and this is like the whole new dynamic in this episode, right? They were getting out to, and
but
a little bit.
At the very least, it doesn't seem like the admiral on the view screen saying you got to do this, and like, just seems so separate. This is like face to face. There's a dialogue that's happening, and it's a good change of pace, I think, for the character as well.
Right. So in the next scene, in this teaser opening before the credits, we go to Deep Space Nine, Terok Nor, as it is at the moment occupied, of course, by the Dominion and Cardassian joint forces here on the station. And I love this scene. It's one of the best scenes I think they've really ever done on the show. Overall, this scene here where Damar comes in into Quarks, and it's narrated by Kira up on the upper level, just kind of, and Jake and I don't know, it's Rom. It's just Rom, Kira and Rom up there, and they're kind of like watching as Damar comes in and wants a drink, and what happened to his pad. Have you seen it? And he's like, nope, I haven't seen it. And he's like, my brother's telling the truth. He hasn't seen it. But like, basically they planted this pad that said that once the Ketracel White runs out, that the Jem'Hadar might have to be mass exterminated, or they might turn on them or something like that. Yeah. And so it's Damar a very inflammatory.
Damar might poison their last portion of White to kill them off. Yeah. Like he has this plan, like a master plan. And I just love how, Kira and Rom are just loving every minute of this. They talk about one part I don't like, and I'll show you what it is. Keep going though.
But yeah, like how the Jem'Hadar come into the bar and they have the pad because Rom left it right outside their quarters. I love how the Jem'Hadar have quarters, despite the fact they don't sleep. They have
Do they just stand in their room?
I guess they practice their fighting, maybe, but like
the Herosian, they have like a hollow emitter, and they practice on that
potentially. Well, they have these hollow suites here, but we don't ever see them use those either. But anyway, so this confrontation here between the Jem'Hadar and the Cardassians breaks out. How they, like Kira talks about how they pretend to be allies, but they hate each other, and they oh yeah, I like how they throw Quark gets thrown across the bar, and Rob's just like, ooh, that's not good, There's no Dr. Bashir here to like necessarily patch Quark up after this. And this is kind of a really brutal fight in Quarks between the two sides, ultimately resulting in a guy dying here. Like this Cardassian dies in this fight, at least one guy, and that's the beginning of the episode, right?
So guess what part I don't like?
What's that?
I was asking if you can guess.
Guess what part you didn't like? You didn't like the Quark got thrown across the bar.
No, that's perfect. I don't like just before the credits, Kira slinks into the shadows.
She kind of like skimpers back, at the end.
I'm like,
right? But
why?
because she's part of the resistance. She don't want, because I think because this blew up so big that there's going to be a lot of just eyes looking around, seeing was there something, any foul play. So she's just kind of slinking away. But yeah, this opening scene, and then we come back after the credits, and then like there's just like there's dead people. Like people died in this fight that was set up here by Rom and Kira, which is part of I think one of the reasons Odo objects to this ultimately. That he thinks that the resistance, because Odo of course values order, and he's a very important, like he's treated very well by especially by like Weyoun and whatnot, and the Cardassians, and so like we get some great like Dukat and Weyoun stuff here, where they're like, whose fault was it? Your man left such an inflammatory document, and they're like, we need to smile and look like we're buddies and we're working together. They get that's the smile here with Dukat, and ultimately, like, we need to clear the room, and of course, whatever you say, Odo. Renee Echeverria, the writer of this episode, of course, and Laura Burden, the director. But here we see Odo looking up at the top of Quarks, kind of looking up at Kira and Rom, and kind of figuring that this is that they're working, and he doesn't approve of necessarily what the result here was. And so we go back to 375, Starbase 375, and we get kind of like zooming in on what part of the base this office is in. It's in more like kind of these modular looking things, Jaemeel. Mm-hmm. And we see here like the 7th attack wing. That's I guess what 375 is running out of. The fighting 7th. They're gonna, they would have to go around the Argolis cluster into the Dominion Sets array. If they did that, they would see them coming a million miles away or a million light years away, and so therefore they can't do that. And so, well, Ross is like, then what are we gonna do? He's like, we're gonna fly right through these crazy star clusters, in the gravimetric shears. Dax is the best pilot you've ever seen. She can do it, and she studied stars. So she's a science officer, right? And Ross is like, well, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah, she's the best pilot. We could have got Tom Paris, but he's we can't find him.
He disappeared in the Delta Quadrant. They broke. He was broken out of jail in New Zealand by Janeway.
The plan is good, but why did not if you're like, well, we're gonna put ourselves up to this star cluster to ensure that no one sneaks to us. They have to go around it. But just in case, like there should have been a but just in case kind of thought process to this situation. The fact that they, like there's no way. I find that just absurd in terms of
yeah, it's a bit convenient for sure, but that's what's presented to us in the story, so we have to just kind of take it at face value. But what I don't really understand about ultimately is that, like, Ross takes this plan, but he doesn't want Sisko to lead the mission. We're not at that point in the episode. That hasn't been revealed so much, but like that you would want Dax at the helm in this mission, not in the command chair. Like, it doesn't make sense that for me in that standpoint, because the whole pitch was she can pilot through it.
Well, it's not like the captain can take the
con, I guess. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, you're right.
Was it Picard did that when he did the reversal move?
Yeah, he's like, get out of the chair, Wesley. Let me show you how it's done. Because he had, of course, been a con officer himself. So yeah, I guess like it's fine, but
it just seems kind of absurd for like, this mission hinges on Dax being in a specific position, and we're like, well, we're gonna change your position.
We're gonna take her out of that position. Yeah, I agree. That part of the story doesn't quite jive for me, but it's a nitpick. In the next scene, we get Kira and Odo, where Odo confront. He's like, "It was you were behind it," and she was like, "Yeah, it worked better than I thought." And Odo is like, "Well, I said it was a bad idea at our last meeting," and she's like, "Well, we didn't care. Jake and Rom and I wanted to all do it, and you think you're the boss, but you're not the boss of me."
No, it's not even that. It's like you didn't like it. You left. The meeting wasn't over.
The meeting continued without you, Mr. Founder. The conflict between these two in this episode is really good. I think that, of course, Kira has the moral high ground for most of it.
For the most of it.
Well, do you agree with Kira, or are you approve of Kira's tactics into getting the Cardassians and the Jem'Hadar to go at it here? Because she says that the Federation's losing this war, things are going bad. Ultimately, Bajor will not always be necessarily protected by the Dominion. Eventually, they will be conquered by the Dominion once the Dominion is done with beating back the Federation or whatever. So
I don't understand Odo's long game, which is to keep the peace for as long as possible.
You're right. His long game doesn't make sense because he really, all Odo wants is sort of like peace and order and sort of no one bugging him. But when the Founder comes into this episode, especially, it throws everything. There was already this conflict existing here between Kira and Odo coming into this, and then you throw the Founder comes in, and she's just, it's like this, I don't know how it's like this family member who is not good for you, but you can't help but sort of.
That's the analogy you're using?
I think so.
To me, it's the hot girl, the hot ex that comes back and is like, oh no, it's gonna mess up my man, it's gonna mess up my friend. And you're like, dude, don't go down that hole. Don't hang out with her. It's only bad news. And he's like, okay, at first, and then it's like, she's not so bad. She's not so bad. And you're like,
right.
No, dude, no. Don't understand.
It's both. It's kind of because like he has this sort of romantic relationship with her, so it is that, but it's also like we're your family and we're your people and your tribe at least, or something of that sort. And it's like he's the way it's always presented on Deep Space Nine is that Odo, they're bad, or they have like bad ideas, a bad philosophy, and Odo is more enlightened because he grew up here, or he was he had his coming of age with Bajor, and in the last 5 years with the Federation and this whole adventure he's been on with the Deep Space Nine crew. And so and it's like this parent who's also happens to be a founder of this what does Kira describe her as? An
intergalactic warlord, maybe, because that's what she is.
That's what she is.
An intergalactic warlord. Well, that's a good description. Salome Jen's playing the Founder. She is amazing in this role. Really good. And just wearing down Odo over the course of the episode, with he's like, well, I haven't forgiven you. Remember when you turned me into a solid? And she's like, well, you killed a changeling, and we were really mad at you, but now we're not so mad at you anymore. It's all good. It's kind of what's presented here, Then they come. I think Kira has like this whole thing about everything, or like everything she's ever done to her. Like on the day we've met her. I thought I had pulled that. Sorry. I promised Kira.
I can't.
Why not?
I promised Kira.
She is a solid. This has nothing to do with her. This is about you.
And what you want.
I can't I also have problems with this plan that they do at the end that leads to our end game of this
with Rom
episode.
getting arrested.
It's a stupid plan, I find.
It's like because eventually they're going to figure a way around. At best, you're going to delay it, right?
But not even that. Not even that. The concept of the plan doesn't make any sense. It leaves no kind of room for error where anything could come up. What happens if Odo is Odo can't be by his office. There's no guarantee that he's going to be there for sure.
Something could pull him away.
Anything. And then but he has to be there for Rom to be able to hit his mark. So it should be some kind of communication or some kind of trigger that allows Rom to know that it's safe for him to go. Just using a time does not leave any room for error at all. Damar is there, and presumably, right, from the perspective of this episode, Damar is there not because he knew, but because a situation came up, right?
Well,
So-
also because Odo wasn't there, so he covers for Odo when Odo's not there for some reason. That's part of his duties. Yeah, well, let's talk about that plan. Well, that comes a little bit later in the episode because they haven't gotten to the point where they figure out that the minefield's coming down. Back to 375, and we see that the plan here, Admiral Ross is basically approving it, but he says, "Hey, my adjutant, what's her name? She got promoted to probably like a rear admiral or something like that, or a commodore, and so she's gone. He lost his right hand woman, so therefore he needs somebody new. And he's like, I'm eyeing you, Captain Sisko, and he's just like, what? He's like, I think you would be a great assistant for me. And I think Sisko knows he can't really say no, but it's not necessarily the job he's looking for. Or is he? I don't know. Like when I first watched this episode 25 years ago, at first I was like, oh, okay, yeah, Sisko's going to become more important in the war. He's going to become more of a general type and not just a smaller field commander per se, or just command of one ship. But on the other hand, it takes him out of like the action and the fighting and all this stuff, which is not necessarily what we want for our hero of our series in Captain Sisko.
Yeah, and in a long term, it isn't a role that really fits the position that he has, especially with Bajor. Right? He can't be in a field office somewhere. Right? He can't be at a star base, how many far away. He needs to be in that position. Otherwise, I think tensions with Bajor overall would be pretty poor.
Right, but there's also this part of Sisko's background. I remember when he was when Cal Hudson came along. Remember that Maquis guy way back when, and he was said when they first graduated and they were commissioned as ensigns that they had planned to be admirals by the time they were 40, which I think Sisko's past 40 at this point, and he's not an admiral yet. So there's part of him that had at least one point aspired to do that. And in terms of his relationship with his position, he's supposed to be the commander of D-Space-9 specifically. That's his that's what this show is. It's about D-Space-9, and the Defiant and everything else has kind of been added on to that and is part of the mythos of it all. But that's the core of it. Sisko is the commander of D-Space-9 from the beginning to the end of the show, and this is this period of the show where he's not. And what are we going to do with him? Fish out of water situation a little bit too.
Do you feel they should have changed the name of the show during
this
period?
No, I don't think they should have changed the name of the show. I think that, if you also, I can't, Davan and I were talking the other night about how, did Babylon 5 copy Deep Space Nine? Deep Space Nine copied Babylon 5. But there was it felt like maybe there was sometimes this feeling, if you were a fan of Babylon 5, as I am, Jaemeel, as you know, that, they were maybe trying to keep up, that, their hero, Captain Sisko, had to be just as credible as Captain John Sheridan, fighting the shadows and the whole all the old ones and all that kind of stuff, and bringing on the third age of mankind in Babylon 5. But
what do you feel? I feel your stance was that D Space Nine was copying Babylon 5.
I can't prove anything. I just have a feeling that there might have been a little bit of that in the writer's room.
You don't think it wasn't like a Deep Impact Armageddon type of situation where, a collection of situations, people who, seemingly sci-fi at a certain point was leading us to this specific analogy with space stations, interacting with different alien cultures. It just seemed like the perfect storm to use to present these ideas and stories, and it just ended up being that both kind of came together into fruition at the same time.
It's as legitimate as a theory as any, like this idea of parallel evolution, that they just happen to both want to do the same thing at the same time, or more or less, or have at least a lot of commonalities, and maybe so. Who's to say? Yeah. Only they really know.
But we got two pieces of great sci-fi fiction from it, so
we did.
Complain?
It's almost like it's even thinking back. If you want to make another comparison, maybe to wrestling, and you think about what was WCW and World Wrestling Federation doing, at the height of their rivalry, and how they would sometimes, like NWO would inspire things like DX, or you'd get sort of like that parallel sort of thing, or like what's popular right now too in science fiction television in this particular case. Anyway, back to the station where there's this meeting ending here between Dukat and Weyoun and Odo, the ruling council, of course, of Terak Nor, when the founder shows up, and
Terrible body posture in that meeting.
This one?
Weyoun seems so distant from the actual table, right?
Yeah.
Gul Dukat seems open in terms of he's presenting himself closer to the action, to the table, and of course Odo, in typical fashion, is completely closed off emotionally to the discourse. Very, very terrible body.
Good job, LeVar Burton, with this direction.
Well, I guess you know what it will. I guess
Butterfly in
it
the
makes
sky.
sense because Dukat, even though he's involved and invested in the situation, we know he's cunning and has ulterior motives. Weyoun is distant. He seems open, but he's always distant in terms of any kind of conversation, right?
Right. Even with the founder, he's like that.
Yeah,
though.
even with the founders. And Odo is exactly what he emotionally closed off.
Yeah, Odo's Odo. But when the founder shows up, it's interesting to see how they all relate to her, because she is like at the essence, like at the very head of the Dominion, right? So she's like royalty coming through here. Of course, Weyoun treats her as such. They're taking care of the war, and then like Dukat, we get Dukat and the founder for I think the first time, maybe one of the only times in the show, where he's like, "Hey, it's me. Nice to meet you. We're the leaders of our respective worlds." And like Wayne's like, "Shut up, man. Like she is like so much above us in terms of the hierarchy." Because I don't know, like it technically Cardassia has joined the Dominion, but in Dukat's mind, Cardassia is just allies with the Dominion.
Yeah.
Like they're just partners, or like they're working together. But that's definitely not the way they're seeing it. They're like, no, you work for us, and we're the boss, basically. And they're like, are you taking down that minefield so we can bring more ships here and just win this war? And
he's like, I'm winning the war. I'm winning the war without even all those ships.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't matter. We don't like it because she can't go home to the link. That's even the bigger issue here. The founder is stuck. She's cut off from the rest of the Great Link, and therefore, that this is another reason the minefield has to come down, not just winning the war more quicker. Anyway, so they're like, we'll get it done. Get on it, and I just like how Dukat like, hey, what's up? He makes direct eye contact with her, very aggressive towards her, and she's just like, she has no F's to give about Gul Dukat whatsoever.
Who are you again?
Who are you? Yeah, like she's very. This is all very small. She's not like. It's interesting that she is like this intergalactic warlord, but on the other hand, she doesn't really care about all of that. In some way, she's really just here for Odo, or like seemingly. There's kind of maybe a bunch of different affairs, because like even when she finds out about, like at the end of the episode, the founder finds out that Kira was behind Rom's thing and everything, but she doesn't care. She's like, whatever, it would upset Odo if I
it seems like the ants are scurrying around. I came here for this. So
right. And all the these scenes here, especially this one where Odo shows off his shape-shifting furniture to the founder, and she's like, we need to get back into Lincoln and whatever, and he's not into it. They just want to keep using talking about stuff.
It's like the Great Link sometimes feels like an MLM,
which stands for
a multi-level marketing scheme. Come on, join us. It's like,
it feels very almost like religion in some ways,
Yeah.
or something. But this is a biological reality of his species, so I don't know like how you necessarily judge it, because it is part of who he is and everything else. But
so okay, do you? We'll wait till the end for me to pose the question I want to ask. So
okay, well, my question, I guess, right now is like, ultimately, where Odo ends up in the episode is kind of, I find, more than I would have thought, because he always seems like he might waver or he might sort of get conflicted, but he goes full on like brainwashed by the end of this. But like at this point, like, you know, I could understand why he's tempted to do this and why it's almost like, you know, you want companionship or something like that from a human standpoint. If you were just cut off from anybody was like you know, maybe you had friends, but you know, they were all holograms and you couldn't interact with them or something like that. You know, like Odo lives very isolated and he spent those like 6 months as a solid as well. So that was a rough time for him. He had to poop a lot.
He has to hang out with Vic Damone all the time.
Exactly. Yeah, but they come together and they're doing the Lincoln, and this is where, you know, it's kind of like, oh, this can't end well, you know, and that's when we go to credits or to commercial. This guy's handing Damar a pad, and Kira shows up in Odo's office, going, you know, where's Odo, you know, and Damar just keeps, you know, being just so loathing of Kira. It's so like he hates, you know, he's just like at this point he's just Ducat's like evil sidekick, but he'll become like this so much more of a greater character, a more fleshed out character. But even in these early days with him, like, you know, he's just like, she's like, where's Odo? He's like, I don't know, not here. He's with the Changeling, you know. he's like, I'm glad I'm giving you like this bad news.
It's hilarious. Actually.
He's such a creep. It's great. Yeah. Odo is, you know, after his Lincoln, you know, and he's just got his leg up on a window here, Jaemeel.
He's Captain Morganing it.
You know, Kira comes in and she's like, "What's up with you? Where have you been? You're not where I expect you." She's really starting to feel like he's not himself. And ultimately, he does reveal to her here that, you know, he did link with the founder, and you know, Kira's very worried. He's like, "Are you worried that I gave all the resistance secrets away?" And she's like, "No, I don't think that's the issue. The issue is that you know, all you've ever done has been manipulated by this woman, and she's been mean to you and lied to you and like and turned you into a solid and like and there's not a lot of good here." But Odo just wants to say, "No, man, like, you know, like she's great for me, and you know, it's like it's complicated. It's all complicated. You don't understand."
Ex-girlfriend.
This is ex-girlfriend, or I just think, but also a family member that's bad for you, like, you know, as a toxic person.
They've changed. Our relationship is so much.
It's going to be so much better. You like when Jason Mewes talked about his mother in some instances in those podcasts, like it reminded me a bit of this, you know, like just like, well, you know, it's bad, but you can't kind of let go because of that, you know, that maternal connection, I guess. And then, so there's more of that boiling up back to the 375 and the defiant of it all. And Commander Dax is commanding this mission, but she's, you know, we get this whole thing here where O'Brien expects, you know.
That's captain. It's an old naval tradition. Whoever's in command of a ship, regardless of rank, is referred to as captain.
You mean if I had to take command, I would be called captain too?
Yeah, by the time you took command, there'd be nobody left to call you anything.
Good point.
I love that.
So okay, I do love that scene. I think it's one of my favorite scenes in Star Trek. That, you know, they established, like, you know, whoever's in command of the ship is called captain. That's a naval tradition that hadn't been observed a ton in Star Trek prior to this. It especially works well in stuff like Star Trek Online, when you're, you know, you might start off as a lieutenant or something like that, but you're the captain of the ship or whatever. And that is proper naval tradition. So I do like that.
It makes sense. Not like, oh, you have the bridge. You're not in command. You're just, you know, you're temporary, you're a placeholder because like Picard's on a away mission. This is like Sisko is off the ship. He's not going to be, you know, traveling, commanding the ship. Dax is the captain.
Yeah. I like it. I do think that, not necessarily in this episode, but she'll go on to command the Defiant for like a good little while after this, at least one more episode after this. And so, like, she stays in this blue uniform. It's a minor quibble, but I would have put her in red just for at least maybe the next episode for a little while. I would have rather they given this to Worf. Instead, Worf's off with Martok, but it also makes sense because I think that Worf was filming, or Michael Dorn more specifically, they were filming Star Trek Insurrection at the time. I guess LeVar Burton was too, but he's somehow here directing this episode too, so he had time to fit this in. Of course, it's all probably a lot of it was shot. I guess back in 1997. So anyway, so Cisco looks around the bridge. He's kind of wishing his crew off here, but having to look around. Oh, joining us, coming off of his X-Men podcast tonight, we have Davan Skelhorn with us, joining this live stream tonight as we're covering Behind the Lines, a 1997 episode, Star Trek DS9, Season 6, Episode 4. Davan, how are you?
Oh, good. We just celebrated the 30th anniversary of the release of the X-Men animated series.
Oh, congratulations.
Well, that's great.
It came out 30 years yesterday. That show.
Yeah. Everyone kind of relax. Davan has returned.
Davan, you returned. Davan, we're talking this episode Behind the Lines. And
I love it. Great episode.
Yeah, you're a fan?
Oh, yeah. Anything that shows Cisco and his masterminding capabilities. He's the man. Cisco. The Cisco.
So here's my question for you is, did you like that he was chosen by Admiral Ross to become his adjutant?
To be
Ross
likes that Cisco's
that they
his
take him
adjutant.
out of the captain's seat and they put Dax in the captain's seat and then the ship leaves here and we don't even get to see their cool fun mission?
Are you saying Commander Dax isn't up to the task?
No, I'm saying that maybe I'm saying more that the adventure was off screen and we never got to see it.
Yeah, I mean that's a bit of a disappointment in the episode.
Really?
But I don't mind that he wasn't there. But I would have liked to seen how Dax did on her first kind of big command on the Defiant.
Yeah, true, that too.
Fair enough, but I don't think I'm losing much sleep over, the actual mission itself.
Yeah, not a ton. It's just, but they're saying no, you're staying behind Captain Cisco. You're taking a desk job now. That's kind of like what this storyline is, right?
Yeah, but like an important desk job.
Yeah,
an important one.
Win us the war desk job.
Right,
you have to win us the war now. Good luck.
Is that good for the Cisco character? Is that something that's positive for his development here in the show?
I think so because it shows just how vast his capabilities are. Like he started off as just like an engines guy or like a ship design guy, and then he became like this commander of a space station that has to be this super political diplomat.
Comment here from Jeremy is like you can command a starship and be in science. Yes, you can be in the science division.
But now it just shows that without even a particular interest in it, he just happens to have this super keen mind for strategy.
Right,
like battle strategy. And
but
stuff.
Worf
I think that's awesome.
Worf was specifically the strategic operations officer. That was specifically his
for that sector, but not
but under Cisco's command, right? And so that was also he was kind of Cisco's adjutant in a sense from that standpoint. But here Admiral Ross is commanding an even bigger group.
Well, they're not going to give that adjutant of Ross's job to Worf. I'll tell you that right now.
I agree.
No, this is not going to happen.
Worf's off on the Rotar and eating ga and he's sleeping with
having a great time.
A terrible father.
Having a great time. Yeah, he was chilling with Alexander, I guess.
Alexander's the terrible son. No, just kidding. Worf is a terrible father. As a father myself, I wouldn't have made up. But you know what? He gets a bad rap because he should have sent Alexander away. I don't think it's right that I look badly upon the parents who take their kids on Galaxy-class starships.
Securities for meatheads. I love it.
You call like Shaq the meathead?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is a sensitive pottery fellow. He likes to make pottery.
Jeremy, you're out of the Cub. You're out of the Cub Club.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah, baby bear. Is that what I sound like?
Yeah. Thank you so much. I've dreamed of doing this for so long. Eject.
Plus a great singer, composer, music lover. You
honor the prophet
with that pitch.
That pitch, Bradward. Anyway,
Wait,
we have to get back on track. But...
just before we get on track, I would love if there was like a sequence, like that lower decks sequence, kind of like really brings up an interesting question, which would be, what would be the one thing that a lot of these characters would love to do, right? Like, what's their like? I've always wanted to do this on a ship, or you know,
what's your warp core? Like, what's your eject the warp core?
Yeah.
The thing you always suggest.
Yeah.
Also, this cat lover.
Cat lover.
Oh my, that was a good one, Murphy. I had to throw that up on the screen.
Probably something like, let's use like the use the main deflector as a super weapon or something like that, the Defiant can have that warhead come off and off of the nose, right? Because did you know that, guys, that the little thing on the end can come off like a big warhead and blow up? So something like that, like a big huge...
It's just a warhead.
So
it can become that. It can be like
it's not just like a little battleship or anything. It's just like a torpedo.
It can like there's like a thing that detaches and it's like a last resort though.
Okay,
but it's
like ejecting the warp core, but before you eject the warp core,
right? But you lose your deflect. It's like ejecting your deflector basically. And
that's fine.
Yeah.
Mine would be
just don't travel at warp.
Enterprise D in the battle bridge. Saucer separation,
yeah.
I always thought that was cool.
For sure.
Right?
Or a sphere separation if you're on an Olympic class ship. So yeah, we got Damar coming into Quark's here. Quark jokes that he's renovating after the big bar fight that of course Damar had started initially, and he gets him like the 27 Kanar, expensive, but he can afford it on his Gull's salary.
Ooh, fancy.
Do you guys like what? I always like watching Kanar, how it's like this weird looking syrup cola.
It's very thick.
It looks thick. Yeah.
It does always look thick.
Yeah, I just like that. I think they got worried about Casey Biggs during later seasons where he was drinking so much of that stuff, which was apparently having an effect on him.
Probably like corn syrup or something horrible.
Yeah, it was just having an inflammatory effect after a while with the amount he was drinking. They were worried. They're like, you need to stop, but he kept going. Yeah, it doesn't look good. Like, I'm sure it's not really, but in the show it's meant to be alcohol, like some kind of
he's a method actor. He wanted to get hooked on the stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And so Quark, wants to get information here. Like Quark, kind of another unsung hero of the Resistance and fighting back in his own way. Getting Damar to not just for profit here, but for other motives with Quark. And so we cut away, of course, to Jake Sisko, hero of the Resistance, and still chilling on the station. Hero with the Resistance cell, Rom and Odo.
Kira doing Riker.
Yeah, she's got the legs spread. Gets.
I have such mixed feelings about Odo. If anyone on this series, I have mixed feelings about it. So.
Yeah, he's just sitting in this green chair, kind of feels out of place. But anyway, Odo.
And I don't like any of the scenes with him and the female changeling. They just go on too long. I don't care about changeling stuff.
Dave, defend your position.
Well, I thought it was I'm okay with it. We were learning a lot about the changelings and the founders, and
we do. I just don't care.
And Odo. Well, I guess, do you care about Odo as a character?
I care about Odo when he's talking to Quark, or I like the lighter side of Odo, like when he's trying to get advice from Vic. I love all that Odo.
Okay,
stuff. But
so my problem with if we're gonna get to this point now, I might as well detail my issues.
Derail us again. That's what I do.
Not necessarily. I'm just saying, I would love those scenes with the changeling and Odo more if the philosophical revelation was a little bit more profound than the fortune cookie-esque type of statements. Oh, just a drop in the ocean, and
the ocean becomes the drop.
Many. I'm like, come on, we could do a little bit better than that.
The drop becomes the ocean.
The best line in all of that is, well, how do you differentiate yourself from the others? And she just goes, I don't.
What use would I have for a name?
What use?
Well, that's bullshit because they do differentiate each other.
They
I don't know.
do,
See,
but that's
I don't
her
like any of
philosophy.
this changeling stuff.
Well, I think that she's a master manipulator and really a bad person, even amongst her species, is kind of like the main thing you're supposed to take away from her. Because,
Yeah, tell me about it, Jeremy.
yeah, well,
10 times out of 10, that's an easy choice.
what was she again, Kira?
An intergalactic warlord, maybe? Because that's what she is.
That's what she is.
That's what she is. Anyway, so this whole scene here with drunk Quark, we need to touch upon here. You know,
I just shared a bottle of Canar with Damar. That rhymes.
That's great.
It sure does.
But you know that he gets this. He says, "I don't want to work with these Cardassians."
I don't like Cardassians. They're mean and arrogant, and I can't stand the Jem'Hadar. They're creepy. They just stand there like statues, staring at you.
Yeah, that would freak me out. like he's a person.
Why do they go there?
I don't.
They're
Yeah,
probably told. They're probably told by the Vorta to like hang out.
Keep an eye on it.
yeah. Move around and don't all just hang out. Just don't hang out in your quarters.
You're not allowed to loiter on the promenade, so you got to keep moving.
Yeah, but ultimately, Quark spills the beans here that he got Damar to say that they're going to bring down the minefield, which is the kind of thing where it's like, oh damn, right? What are we going to do now? And they're like, what do you mean?
Defector? No, that doesn't sound right.
They're going to use the deflector. There's a defector. There's a defector.
Well, like it's not me.
Yeah, he's like the only one who knows anything about the minefields is me. He goes, no. And I got that clip here. Where is it with Rob and Kira?
It's a great line.
Let's just go. Sorry, guys. Kira.
The deflector dish can't
What do you
that.
think, Ron?
I'm glad it wasn't me.
About the deflector array.
What do you think, Rob? I'm just glad it wasn't me.
Who cares? We're all gonna die. It wasn't my fault.
Yeah, and they're like, well, you could only take down the thing with an anti-proton beam, which we can't have on the station unless you do this and this and this and convert this into this, and then you could. And there's like Quark's like, why did you think of that when you designed the system? This thing that like they've been like the entire Dominion's been trying to bring down this minefield for months. Obviously, like Rom
It was
is a
pretty
genius.
good design. Yeah,
Rom was a
Pretty
genius for
freaking-
even thinking of it in the first place. And like they're just thinking of a solution now after months.
Like,
So
he got to that idea before O'Brien did. That's
really. Oh yeah, O'Brien just implemented it. It was really Rom's idea, and they kind of fine tuned it. But yeah, Rom's the hero of that of the war, perhaps in many ways.
hero of the Ferengi people.
Did
Yeah,
you get a medal for that?
right.
Probably not.
But here they come up with this whole plan about how they're going to get Rom to like go in and disable this thing and at least slow the effort down. It seems like it was the plan here. And then Odo's right in. He's like, I can disable the alarms at a certain time if you just tell me when. Like 0800. Which Jameel's problem with this plan is that the plan was a bad plan. That Kira didn't really think of enough. Didn't come up with the contingencies.
Bad plan.
That there should have been a signal and other things. But that I think that's not necessarily what the point is. The point more is that Odo, Odo had a job to do and he didn't do it. He let them down.
I just feel it just
Whether or not they could have,
selfish.
they sure. Even if Kira had come up with a failsafe, another plan or an abort at least or something, Odo still, his actions in this episode are still his actions. Like we still those are still a thing, and well, it's neither here nor there, right? You know. With Kira, anyway.
all right. I won't continue arguing that point.
Yeah. She was
What do you
counting
guys
on
think
it.
of the phase emitter tradition they have going,
Phase emitter?
or their phase coil, or whatever it is that they bring in?
Oh,
And they're like, take a good look.
Yeah, the
Oh,
speech.
Oh, the energy cell from the phasers. Yeah.
Oh yeah, phase.
What do I think of it? I like Jaemeel thinks that the speech didn't have enough. It wasn't well written enough. It could have had some more gravitas. But I kind of liked it. I liked it then, and I like it now. I like that they're trying to say we got every day we got to fight Cardassians and Jem'Hadar, and we keeping up that morale is part of what your job is as the captain in this series. And we don't get to see a ton of that in Star Trek. This is our one opportunity so far, at least in Star Trek, with a real war shown on how the idea of like the Starfleet officer being the soldier as well, especially in wartime and having to defend the Federation and its your freedoms and all these other things. So it's like they have to kind of do all that. And we got this conversation here with Worf and Cisco about where's Dax. She's overdue to come back. She won't be late for her own wedding.
Who is Dax? Yeah.
Yeah.
Who is Dax?
Right. And I don't know. It's a very like this is Worf's cameo in the episode. It's kind of just like boop boop boop. I'll call you once I know more. And he's like stayed up late. He's having a rough time, and Admiral Ross is like, you need to get some sleep. We need to like command a whole bunch of ships and like save a bunch of lives. And he's like, you can order me to my quarters, but I won't be sleeping. I'm worried about what's going on with Dax. He's like, well,
get used to it.
Get used to it. Can I just ask you, Davan, do you like the Admiral's uniform that was introduced in this episode?
With the belt?
Yeah, they changed the belt later to a different belt.
I don't like that belt.
That belt, they got rid of that belt.
Is that like a weird crotch zipper? Like I don't know that I like the crotch zipper.
It's not. No, it's more of like it has more of like it's not, instead of a jacket, it's more of a longer jacket. It's like,
you know what? I'm gonna go out on a limb and say not a fan.
But wasn't it an improvement? You thought at least that because remember like the Admiral's uniform before this that was more of like looked like the Next Generation style, which was just the cloth style. Like I remember being excited about this at the time, and this is still one of my favorite Admiral's uniforms because
I mean, if you're gonna have a flashy belt like that, it really needs some epaulets. Like you got to go full flash.
Have you seen? Yeah,
buckle's too big.
Where's my buen amigo guy when I need him here?
Wait till you see the uniform. It has 4 epaulets.
4.
I really like
each
this
shoulder
because I feel like this is like it feels like it's more connected as well because I when we saw Admiral Ross in his first appearance, he's still wearing that like red and black, the black on top red, and this feels like they're more in like the same. Like
it's kind of like Starfleet meets Odo's uniform.
Starfleet means Odo. And they were also designing this, I think, at the time because for Admiral Dowdry's uniform in Star Trek Insurrection, right? Because that was being filmed around this time too. So they knew that they were going to be bringing that in.
They could have tailored it better. It's very unflattering to the.
When you look at Cisco's uniform, his is more of a jacket, whereas like I guess it's more of a coat almost on the Admiral.
It looks like
it's got the gold trim.
It looks like a box.
Why do they? What's wrong with? Why so? People are so against belts, but if you look at the uniform in Star Trek Online, it has a.
That's a stupid belt.
A Star Trek Online or this belt that Admiral Ross has?
That one. It looks like He-Man or something. Something that would be on He-Man's chest.
Thomas Hill, do you like the belt on the Admiral's uniform? Tell me, please.
Dave just needs a little backup.
I need a little backup. I'm like, why can't we have belts? No. Anyway.
No belts, no epaulets. What are we doing here?
No pips.
No pips.
No. What about squeaks? Anyway, the whole scene here.
What about those non-pips?
Those are called squeaks. Pips and squeaks.
Those are squeaks.
Yeah, you get this pips. Yeah, it's a long story. Anyway, so
I get you. Pips and squeaks.
Pips and squeaks. Thomas Hill liked this episode, and he don't mind the belt. Oh, thank you, thank you, Thomas
Hill. That's generous.
Anyway, so we were kind of touched on it earlier, but the scene here where Odo's like, "Tell me about our people, and tell me about the Great Link, and the drop becomes the ocean, and are you an individual or not?" And like I think this really just comes down for me that this is her philosophy. not really what's necessarily what all.
But if the
changelings-
drop becomes the ocean, isn't it their philosophy?
Ooh.
well, according to
Then
her,
the
but
ocean becomes the drop.
I wish we got more diversity in the. We only see like meet 3 or 4 changelings in this whole show, right? Like that we really can say.
And by like linking with her, Odo starts to take on more of her philosophy. So is that just like the blanket philosophy that they all have, and you'll be absorbed into if you link too much?
It's very like it's got a real religious vibe to it. It's an indoctrination. You know, Jaemeel and I have been talking the whole podcast about how, you know, like the founder is kind of like she's either a combination, or she's probably a combination of these two things. Like the ex, you just, you know, is bad for you and you want to get away, but also it's like a family member who might be toxic, or any kind of relationship that's toxic in your life. But I think more specifically because there's like this familial relationship. Like these are his people. This is like his birthright in for, you know, and what he's meant to be. And that he's never fit in with the solids or in this other world. He's always been a fish out of water. He's meant to be the Spock, the alien of this show, this Data of this show. And I feel like all these scenes with the founder are really just trying to give us more of that aspect of him, right? Are we starting a jam session?
I saw Jaemeel grab a guitar, so I did the same thing.
Yeah, we were singing a song to the founder and to Odo. Change the changeling.
Yeah, mine is not tuned, so you're not going to hear anything. And mine's electric too. So.
Guys, would you hide your? Would you
playing
hide
it
your
wrong anyway?
Would you hide your tools in a basket of fruit, like Rom did?
Yeah,
here?
yeah, I would.
Right,
Yep.
and I like how these Cardassians show up because they have apparently quarters across the hall from Kira, and she's like, "Yeah, Quark sent me this fruit. Well, that he won't be catering any favor with me." And I don't know, just a quick little scene they threw in here, but more here with you know, she puts Kira in. Kira puts Rom into the chamber, the station here with the fruit. You know, don't worry, Odo will disable the alarm at 0800. You be there.
Is everyone in position? No, don't worry. Go ahead.
Well, she's not necessarily the best at the plans. I don't know, like, because he shows up the restricted area and then he's just like, okay, time to wait. You know, Odo will save me. Kira,
where's Jake? Why wasn't Jake there?
Jake has no. They give Jake no responsibility in any plan. He never has any actual thing to do. Oh, can you hear Davan?
What?
Can you hear Davan? Is he speaking?
No, he's not speaking. Oh, he stopped talking. You stopped talking, Davan.
Can't hear him. But I'm getting like a weird like pip and squeak sound coming.
I messed up somehow.
Okay, well, I can hear you, Jaemeel.
Oh, okay.
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 Okay, see if Davin's come back. Davan?
Welcome back. Don't pull an Andre on us.
I can't hear you.
Can't
No.
hear you. Davan, it's a safe space. Jody is not here. You can voice your opinion, and we will acknowledge it as being valid.
No, we can. No, oh, that's not working. Anyway, Odo wasn't there. He's too busy doing this.
He's making out with the founder in his room.
Yeah,
And he lost
disappointing.
track of time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, he didn't forget. He just didn't care. And Kira
If
is
that isn't
front-
his that's an Odo face. Oh,
that's an Odo.
Odo face.
Odo. Constable Odo.
Yeah. David missed my pun. It wasn't really a pun per se.
Hello.
Yo.
Ah, we can hear you now. This is
still that weird background sound, though. Eh?
Yeah, I'm hearing it too. I don't know where it's coming from.
I don't think that's
Put down the
me.
guitar.
It's Jaemeel.
Yep, it's Jaemeel.
Jaemeel, there's a
It's
weird.
your
Like,
amp, Neil, you got a weird.
you got like a
ring
feedback.
Yeah.
Now it's gone.
I unhooked my own mic by accident.
Okay, well, guys, if you're just joining us, We're getting through some technical difficulties, but we're continuing our review here of Behind the Lines, a season 6, episode 4, episode of Star Trek DS9.
Murphy, enjoy your victory. You defeated Andre and Rye, but Jody.
Oh, it's come back, Jaemeel. You've brought it back.
I was defeated
Brought
by
what?
corrupt judging, as I always am.
I unplugged my guitar.
Whatever
Well,
you
it's
just
not your
did.
guitar.
Then it's not your guitar. Oh,
It's
now
something though. Oh, yep. No, it's
That
not.
means turn off my volume. You can't hear me.
something's interfering with your.
No,
with
tell
your...
him to turn his gain down. Turn your gain down.
There's something causing an interference for you. No, it's back.
Yep. Definitely back.
Gone.
Gone.
So wait, is that you mean you can't talk either? Everyone's got a broken microphone at some different point in this podcast. Anyway,
I'm here for you. man.
Rom gets captured here, Davan. You know, because Odo wasn't there. He tries
Odo
to
sucks.
scurry away. And
He was too busy, consorting with his cousin wife or whatever the good analogy.
You're back,
would be.
Jaemeel, and you're back, and your squeak's back. But it only really started like partway through, so I think it was something with your guitar. Maybe,
How about now?
You're okay. No,
You're
I
good
can hear
now.
you, and there's no squeak. So
Yep.
Okay,
I'll
I just
take it.
changed
You're
my
good.
channel.
Anyway,
I'm quick solving audio issues. It doesn't take like an hour.
There you go. You're a little quiet, but we can hear you. Okay, and then the scene here where well, guess what? Dax is back. I love this thing here between Bashir and Dax. You know,
Dax, could you tell Ensign Kirby how I took over the comm when Lieutenant Hart was injured? She doesn't believe me.
Frankly, I'm not sure I believe it happened myself.
yeah. Can you tell the ensign how I was really heroic earlier? She's like, I don't think I believe it either.
For a man
Anyways.
that's augmented, the fact that he has to stoop to do all these feats to impress people is still kind of hilarious to me.
That he's still trying to prove himself.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, they got the story of Brandy. Don't ask where he got it. And then we get Dax's version, which is very much the same, but
Just
you know,
badly acted in comparison. But
Here's
yeah.
another one, Captain.
Take a good look, because this says something about us. That we're willing to fight, and that we'll keep on fighting until we can't fight anymore.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You don't throw something like this away.
No. This speech you certainly do.
Well, because she's clapping to the fleet.
Good crew.
Dave
The
complained
best.
when Cisco did the speech originally. He clapped, and he's like, "Why is he clapping to his own speech?" She clapped as well.
I didn't like that part. I would have had him just go like, yeah, or like, yeah.
I feel like the director was just like, now, Terry, can you do that again, but remove all emotion from your voice? You're not excited to be completing the mission. It's just another thing. It's just putting your vacuum back in the closet. Like
that speech
no
coming
big
from Worf would have been a lot better. Or
oh my God, Worf would have killed that. Yeah.
So it's
or
like
Core would have delivered those lines.
Or Martok.
Yep. Klingon or Cisco. That's what you. Or Kira.
Kira would have been fine too. Yeah, I think that there was a lot of people, but she wasn't necessarily. It didn't really inspire me. When Cisco gives it at the beginning, it's more inspiring. When Dax gives it,
it's still terrible speech.
Well, sometimes it's the personality and the charisma, I think, or something about it. So I think there's a little bit of that.
With Kira doing it, Kira always talks where, in the middle of what she's talking, just a.
Speaking of which, well, this scene here at the end where she is pissed and she's on a mission to confront Odo, and she's just smashing the doorbell or whatever, she's just going to town and it opens up, and Odo is just so apathetic about the whole thing,
Just want to take a swing at his smug ass face.
Yeah.
I was counting on you.
I was counting on. Rom was counting on you. And he, I like the way that Rene Auberjonois plays the scene. He's so cold. He's been like completely brainwashed. It's like he's become a member of the clergy or something. Or
none of my issues with the character of Odo have anything to do with Rene Auberjonois because he's like a masterful actor. But it's just I don't like the character really.
Well, it's hard. It's hard. They at this point, like it's really hard to like him, and because he's always this grumpy character, and he doesn't really fit in very well, and it's like well, and he's also got conflicting loyalties and morality too, and so it's like we're like compared like he's supposed to be again the Data or the Spock or sort of like this intent or like the Doctor maybe or 7 of 9 in Voyager having that sort of like looking at the humanity lens through this alien or this worldly character.
But all those people that you mentioned are more curious about the human condition. He just seems kind of like over it and grumpy all the time.
Well, I guess more like Spock. I think they're going more for that vibe of like, he was like, he wasn't that curious about the human condition. He kind of had a disdain for it in some ways, a rejection of it. And I think they were trying to go maybe a little bit with that same thing, but at least he had the half human thing and whatever. And Odo doesn't have any of that. Odo is just a very, very different alien kind of character. And his relationship,
he's half changeling and half boring.
Yeah, he's all changeling, and I agree. He's a bit of a boring character. I agree. Like the stuff with him and Quark is great, and I even like his relationship with Kira. But
sure,
I think his role as like, well, he's a member of this species that also is like at the head of this intergalactic empire that's trying to take over the galaxy, and I think that's kind of interesting. But how it plays out here on the show, I don't know. I find it somewhat unsatisfying. I don't think he can be redeemed as much after this. And I don't, we'll talk about that when we get to those episodes, but yeah, like, I think that it's like, well, it's different, I think, than when like Data turned on the next gen crew with Lore, right? Because that was about the manipulation of like the emotion chip that Lore had. It's kind of feels like that in a lot of ways, but it's a little bit different. Even changelings they love. I guess it comes down to whether you really have empathy towards the Odo character too. I think, but it's kind of hard sometimes.
He should have made that promise. Take the O'Brien route. He should have not made that promise.
Ultimately, the not to link with her,
correct?
Right? Oh yeah, because I love the scene with the founder.
I can't. Why not? I promised Kira. She is a solid. This has nothing to do with her. This is about you. About what you want.
He was wavering because he brought up Kira. He knew he shouldn't have brought that up.
And she knows how to manipulate him with that too, right?
She brings up Kira all the time to him.
Do you guys want some details discovered by Dave?
Only if they're discovered by Dave.
I've discovered them.
Otherwise, I don't want them.
You're gonna get them. The original title for this episode was "Life During Wartime."
Lord, thank you. They changed it. Jeez, that's terrible.
Yeah,
originally, the B story of this episode was based on the 1930 Howard Hawks film "The Dawn Patrol." A major theme of the movie is that of a reluctant commander being forced to send untrained troops into the field, and the moral turmoil it causes them. However, Ira Stephen Bear read Echeverria's script, and he felt it didn't work because the B story had become too important, and it felt like it should be the A story as such. He dropped that story entirely and replaced it with a B story involving Dax, where she is given command of the Defiant and discovers that she loves combat. According to Echeverria, she gets into it far and becomes Patton. Neither Bear nor Echeverria himself was happy with the story. However, ultimately, we reinvented it again, making it a much smaller, quieter story where you're just asked to put yourself in Sisko's shoe and see how hard it must be for him to sit back and see his friend go into war when he's, going to take a desk job.
Dave, what that tells me is, hey, they had a great idea for a B storyline that was actually superior to the A storyline, and they decided
that happens a lot.
Let's scrap it so we can have a mediocre A storyline.
Yeah, sure. I don't. Yeah, that's what I told you. Odo's original role in this episode was also quite different from how it ultimately turned out. in the first draft, Odo becomes so involved with the female changeling that he allows his need for order to consume and blind him, and he actively tries to end the resistance movement. Indeed, he is the one who arrests Rom, but they weren't happy with the storyline, the writers, so they ultimately decided to alter the script to have Odo commit a sin of omission, not a sin of commission. The old Catholic maxim.
Him arresting Rom would have been a hard thing to come back from.
Yeah. A sin of omission out of Odo's carelessness and his obsession with the female shapeshifter. He doesn't deliver on what he's supposed to do, and he's confronted with it. He realizes that he doesn't really care that much. It doesn't seem important. It is the first time we see the new Admiralty uniform. They now match the regular uniforms, and thus the transition to a more military Starfleet is completed. The reason the writers introduced Damar's fondness for Kanar in this episode is because they wanted to have a hint to the audience that something is wrong with him under the surface. Hans Beimler explains he's become a real bad guy, but he's drinking, and you want to know why. He's not drinking because he's an alcoholic. He's drinking because he has a conscience. There's something he doesn't want to deal with. He knows Ducat's deal with the Dominion is wrong, and so he's drinking. Oh, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
During the 7th season, the writers would develop Damar's character in a similar manner and how they developed the character of Ducat during the 3rd and 4th seasons, and how they developed Kai Wynn towards the end of the 5th, i.e. his role as a villain would be rendered more ambiguous and he would be seemingly on the path to redemption. Unlike both Ducat and Wynn, however, Damar would complete the journey to redemption and would ultimately become one of the most important figures in ensuring the Federation's victory in the Dominion War. There you go. Armin Shimmer considers this to be an important episode in the development of Quark concerning his speech, A Time to Stand, where he points out the presence of the Dominion isn't all that bad. Quark is one of those deluded people who thought, well, this is fine. We all get to do what we want to do, and realized that liberty was more important than creature comforts. But he learns that he was very appreciative for that aspect of his arc, like the everyman character. Quark has to go through some turmoil before he realizes the truth. And Salam Jens makes her first appearance as the female changeling since the season 4 finale, Broken Link, where he was turned into a solid, of course. And speaking, one more. Damar is promoted from the rank of Glyn to Gull in this episode.
Sweet salary bump.
Yeah, it's a sweet. You can afford that 27 Kanar. You watch
29, 27,
or whatever it was. Yeah, give me the 20. Expensive. I can afford it on a Gull's salary. All right, guys, let's rate this episode. Ratings behind the lines. I'll go first. I like this episode. I'm going 8.2. Yeah.
I'll give it a 7.3.
A little low. Okay. Davan.
I'll give it a straight 8.
Straight 8. Okay. And that averages out tonight at a 7.8 with the three of us.
Sons and daughters?
Oh, yeah. We don't have your rating for sons and... No, we do. We don't have Davan's for sons and daughters.
Oh, that's a good one. 9.
I'm just a hater, I guess.
Yeah, you were not a fan of that episode. Okay, well, guys, so that's behind the lines. And we averaged a 7.8. Rene Echeverria, of course. LeVar Burton directed this. And I'm calling it a Sisko and Odo, but also a real ensemble episode. Everyone kind of has a moment in the episode.
The star of this episode was the belt.
The Admiral's belt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thomas Hill gives this 8.5. He thought it was good. He says Damar is a Cardassian, true. So he's a true Cardassian. Unlike Ducat, who would sell out. Ducat would sell his mother down the river, for a nickel, as they say.
What do you think he spends his Gull salary on? Probably just child support. Apparently, he's got 10 kids.
Well, I'm sure he's getting paid a Leggett salary now, even though he still has the rank of Gull. It's more hands-on, as Ducat tells us. Guys, the episode that comes after this is called Favor the Bold. Fortune.
Now that is a 10. I'll tell you right now.
I'm trying to remember what exactly happens. So this is where Sisko decides to retake Deep Space Nine in order to bolster the sagging morale. Yeah.
Oh, it sure is. This is a friggin' episode, boys.
Yeah.
You hear that, boys? This is a hell of an episode, boys.
We're coming with Favor the Bold. So this episode's really and continue because episode what is it? The next episode is episode 5, and they're like, it's been 5 weeks where, like we have Kira and Jake and Rom and Odo over here, and we got, Cisco and the gang over here. And so we have to get these crews back together. But I feel
Time to
like
get the band back together.
Yeah,
That's
it
the
almost
name of
feels a
my
little early. It almost feels a little bit early in the show. I feel like they could have gone maybe 2 more episodes with this, with their separated.
That's the name of my band, Cisco and the Band. Cisco and the Gang.
Cisco and the gang, the cool gang. Yeah. So okay. So we're gonna be talking about that episode next. Hopefully next week, if it all comes together.
Hopefully, it's happening.
Oh, I'm just hoping that our host Jeff Mader will come back. But I never know.
It's
So
the
He's
day
got
after
stuff to
Halloween.
yabba dabba do.
I'm like Kira. I'm just here on the station, hoping he's gonna come back one day, trying to keep things together.
And then you slink off into the shadows, right?
Yeah, I slink off in the shadows when I get the right now. It's the Dominion might be running things, but yes. So did you all like the movie Battleship? Did I see Battleship? Yeah, I saw it. I didn't care for it that much, one way or the other.
The one with the aliens.
Yeah, it wasn't that good.
And what's her name? The person who, whenever I hear her sing, the first thing that enters my mind is, man, she could dance. Rihanna. Rihanna's in that movie, isn't she?
Maybe. I don't remember Rihanna being in it.
That
But
sounds like a movie I'd actively avoid.
it's not,
I have not seen it.
Definitely.
like it's based on the video. It's based on like the board game Battleship, right?
Yeah.
So it's not good. Okay, we're getting off topic, guys. D Space Nine. Of course, we do other podcasts here on Live Long and Podcast, including a Star Trek Enterprise podcast. We were supposed to be on last night, and then we ended up having to push it because Jody couldn't make it. So we're going to be on Monday to talk about the episode Cogenitor now, this coming Monday, November 7th.
Jody was still in hiding after the travesty that he partook on Davan. On Sunday.
You
as a
saw.
host of
You
Trivia
saw.
Debates, yes. Yes,
That's 3 times I've been unjustly punished upon that
Maligned.
show. Maligned.
Jody's
That's word I
Jody's
was
the
looking
hardest
for.
to get a win off of, so it's tough. But guys, Live Long and Podcast.
Luckily, I'm judging next time. Fair.
Yeah, you're going back in the judges' seats but just on the Live Long and Podcast, Star Trek Enterprise, we'll be talking about Cogenitor, and then this Thursday we're talking about Star Trek Lower Decks. Or no, Prodigy.
Prodigy.
Sorry, we just finished our Star Trek Lower Decks. You should also check that out. We did all the coverage there. We're hoping to do like a deep dive for the season at some point. But we'll be on this Thursday. Jessica Chan and Davan and I talking about Let Sleeping Borg Lie, Star Trek Prodigy, Season 1, Episode 12. Great show, and we're looking forward to talking about that. We have a whole family here on the Live Long and Podcast Network, and most notably the Locutors of Trek, all kinds of podcasts going on, into the Scott Amendal that just went up somewhat recently.
Chuckle Jump coming to, we'll review this and probably do a video review of Ferengi, The Future is Female. We talked about that on the audio only podcast, but I'll throw it on the Chuckle Jump, I think.
Great, and we got the
focused.
Yeah.
a radio theater of sorts coming up this month, hopefully, with a comic book adaptation coming to you. We're just waiting for the final issue to come out. So check out all our great stuff here on Live Long and Podcast, including also the no, not that one. What am I looking for? The United Federation of Podcasts, which is all kinds of great members. Of course, tonight the X-Rated podcast was happening with Andre and Davan. They were talking. What episode were you on tonight, guys?
Season 3, episode 15. Yep, Dark Phoenix Part 2. Fantastic episode. It's pretty much ripped right from the Dark Phoenix comic. If any episode of this series is ripped from a comic book, it's that one. Yeah. And it was great. And we also have an interview with writer extraordinaire Brooks Wachtel coming up in a couple of weeks. And that'll be fun.
Awesome. And now that Andre just finished his play as the Frankenstein's monster. Yeah. You should his podcast, the Graphics History Podcast, coming back probably in the near future.
Yeah. He's working on getting some guests now. He says we should have news about that very soon.
That's awesome. Of course, Hold Up movie podcast with Davan and Chris Murphy.
I'll tell you right now, there, Thomas Hill. The only way I will watch Battleship is if you can convince Murphy to make it one of his picks on the Hold Up. It's the only way I watch that show. Murphy makes me watch a lot of terrible things, like The Rock and Justin Timberlake.
Oh, okay. Have you watched it
I
yet?
haven't watched it yet, but I'm not looking forward to it. It's
Okay.
like 2.5 hours of the raw.
We had a lengthy conversation about it, and I'm like, I can't believe you're gonna make this man suffer through that movie.
I know,
So-
man. He's it's just revenge. He's doing it out of petty revenge. And I only made him watch The Tingler. It was an hour, and it was great. Anyway.
It's only an hour. It's all
Yeah.
right.
So the previous episode that just aired, it featured. Sorry, I haven't watched it yet because I kind of it's my Jimmy Jam, kind of relaxing. I put it on, I close my eyes, and I just get transported away to this bickering session. It's great.
Oh,
Folks,
yeah.
if you haven't listened to this podcast, even watch the podcast, watch it. Okay, hold up podcast.
Hold
What
up,
movies are-
hold up, and watch Hold Up.
You should see me and Murphy's like text messages. It just starts at 10. We just start at 10.
What's the episode? What is the movies featured in this last episode?
Wolfman?
In the werewolf one, we had The Wolf Man from 1941. American Werewolf in London.
Yes.
And Werewolf by Night.
Yes.
Werewolf theme.
Yes. I disagreed with Murphy's pick, but don't worry. Dave, please continue. I'm sorry.
Oh no, it's all good. We got so many great podcasts within the Federation of Podcasts. We did touch on Trivial Debates, which just had a new episode come out yesterday. Well, this
skip it.
I would just skip the movie round. Just go to the TV round, and it's fine after that.
No,
So-
listen to the whole train wreck. Like me.
No,
It is a train wreck. If you want a comedy of errors and you like chaos and a real good shit show, like you're the kind of person that stops and watches a car accident.
Ryan went to his studio to get his mic. It's like, wait, why isn't he recording from the studio?
Oh man, I lost it. That's when my soul officially left my body.
Yeah,
and I was
well,
just
there was all
looking
the-
down from above for the rest of the show.
There was all this off the air stuff where when Andre didn't show up in the morning, and then we had to get Ryland to fill in, and it was just like it was a series of unfortunate events. So, and then Ryland came back, but then Ryland left, and we didn't know what was going to happen. And so Andre and Ryland became a team, and then that was the whole thing. So you should check out that. It was a very
and I
unique
should have
episode.
won.
And you should have won, but you didn't. So every second is a beautiful moment of destruction. Well, that's one way to look at it.
Yeah, that is one way of looking at it.
Yeah, well, it's one we'll remember. I think one we'll come back to versus maybe one of the more.
Should have said when we were talking about Hold Up, though, Dave, you're on the next one.
Oh yeah, I'm coming up. We're doing apocalypse movies and
yeah.
or post
Dave chose
dystopia movies.
Dystopia.
Yeah.
Dave chose Gattaca.
Wait,
Gattaca,
so all three of you chose a different movie?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
Usually I choose two unless we have a guest.
What
But
movie did you choose?
Logan's Run.
Okay.
And what's the Southland Tales is the other one.
Have you ever,
So-
Dave? Have you ever seen Southland Tales?
I haven't watched the whole thing. No. So
He has, Davin. He hasn't watched the whole thing. There's a reason for that.
I know. I'm not looking forward to it. I'm really not looking forward to it.
I-
I'm actually going to make Tiffany sit through it with me. I'm not suffering alone.
Tiffany.
Murphy forgot that Kevin Smith's in it. So I'm just gonna
She
watch
hates
that.
bad movies too, so
Dude,
it'll be painful for her too.
I told him that you should also read the corresponding book.
No, that's not happening.
A book.
Is The Rock in that too?
Yeah.
His character, I believe, features in it.
Yeah, Jaemeel, you're
And
gonna have to be on the show soon.
Come
I'll
on
hold up.
soon. Guys, we got Super Mario Brothers podcasting, Survivor, and Big Brother podcast will be on tomorrow night, Survivor 43, as well as you should also check out our friends of the Federation, the Hellbound podcast, Alex Blackburn, Michael Chan, as well as Let's
Did
Talk
you
About
not
Fake
extend
News.
the invite yet?
I'm waiting for like our
Prospective
framework.
members.
They're the prospective members list. They're like Bejor. Their application. They don't even
They
know
want to
that
see
they're
our
being eyed for
belts
membership.
before they join.
Yeah, we just have to get the site up. I said, and then we'll start inviting people to join.
Yeah.
So, officially, but they could join if they want to join. They can apply. There's no.
They can apply for Federation membership.
Yeah. So,
They have any like recent occupations that may be causing a holdup or some difficulty in the process?
He said, "Hold up."
Oh, hold up! We say it a lot in the show.
yeah. Well, I think that's all the plugs, guys. So I think we're gonna get out of here. Thanks for being with us for Star Trek Deep Space Nine. It was a long one, season 6, episode 4. Appreciate it. We're looking forward to Favor the Bold, where they come back into the episode. And I think we need
Don't miss it.
We need a great quote here to take us out. Oh, I know what we need.
This says a lot about us.
Yes.
Take a good look at this, people. It says something about this ship. It says that we will fight, and we will keep on fighting until we can't fight anymore.
Yes, sir!
You don't just throw something like this away.
No,
sir!
No, sir, my captain. Rengi style. Oh, no, he doesn't.